Well, there is a part of me that is darned determined. And this is it's probably the most powerful prayer I've had in my life is to actually be in a relationship, this arena of connection. And so I was really, you remember that book when you were a child, The Little Engine That Could, that always
I
tried to
think
get up
I
the
can. I
hill?
think I can. I think I can.
Exactly.
I know I can. I know I can. Yeah.
So I would date someone and it would start to go down the direction of my second marriage where I had all this hope, but it wasn't lined up and I'd be disappointed. So I'd go, okay. But every time I dated and it did not work out, I found myself remembering that there was some teacher, Zig Ziglar, I think, he used to teach salespeople. And they were talking about how to become a master successful salesperson. And you need to go out and knock doors. You get to be told no. And he said, how you handle the no is everything. But if you start to say, each no is one step closer to yes. So I would just, when I was done with one, I would just say, okay. And I would hold. And then I would be waiting. And I'm remembering now, I would begin, probably 2 years in, I began having a dialogue with my partner who was coming.
All right. This next interview is a treat because, well, it was a treat for me. I feel like it's a treat for you because I am going to share with you my beloved Gavin, and he has so much to share about his journey through relationships and coming into this beautiful space and place and growing in his potential, his spiritual connection, his prayer to meet me. So it's a beautiful, fun, juicy interview. Enjoy it. And if you haven't met Gavin, Gavin Frye is a beautiful spiritual therapist and leadership mentor. And he wrote a book called The Real You. And he's my guy, and we do stuff together. And I feel really blessed to have such a man in my life. So here he is, the one and only Mr. Gavin Frye. So it is no surprise that you and I are having an extraordinary experience together. And we met later in our lives. So we had an amazing, rich history and herstory that brought us to where we are today in our divine meeting. And that's what I want to talk about and share today. And so, sweetheart Gavin, thank you for being willing and saying yes.
Yes to our life together, and yes to anything you want to talk about now.
Okay, cool. I want to have you share a little bit about the significant, just short, like your significant relationships leading up to us and what you learned in those relationships.
I was married when I was 32 for the first time. And I waited because I felt like I wanted to know myself. I wanted to be evolved before I partnered with someone who was also evolved. And I had an extraordinary, rich relationship of over 25 years. And yet the last 5 or 6 were very difficult because my wife and I had 2 children, 2 boys that had a significant mental illness and addiction, which was very, very painful and suffering and exhausting. And it tore at the fabric of the marriage, which is very common if you read about these things. So even though I will always love her, I just knew, and I was shocked that this happened, that we were not to go on together. So I went on to a couple year period where I wasn't dating and I wasn't with someone. And then I met another woman that I was together with for 2.5 years. And I took all of my desire for an extraordinary relationship and poured it into that. But I made some errors. There were things I didn't see until I saw them later. There were red flags, concerns I didn't address as they came along. And it turned out that we weren't as compatible as I thought we were. And despite my desire to make it something extraordinary and doing therapy and working hard, I realized the limits that I couldn't make a relationship work by trying hard or just loving someone a great deal. So I had to admit this was not a relationship that was to continue. But I remember when I was letting go of that relationship, I was very clear in my heart. I was not only letting go of this relationship, I was saying yes to the relationship of my prayers. I was pointing in that direction and my desire and making room for that. Someone once said to me once, the way to create what you want is to be willing to say no to what you don't want. And I did that. So that
And
pointed me towards, as it turned out, us.
well, and I know both of these choices to end these powerful relationships, and even before that, your college sweetheart Zena, and how beautiful that was, where there was also you two choosing to split. It wasn't easy. You're a big loving guy, and so there was heartache there. But what was it that gave you the clarity? Like in each case or as a composite, how did you know? How did you trust that it was time to say goodbye to that, to say hello to something else?
I was fortunate to awaken to my spiritual center, who I am, my soul, at 25 years old. So it's been awake for a long time. And the more that I've grown on that path, the more I was able to touch into what my truth is. The truth inside of me that's beyond what I'd like it to be, the truth of almost like a non-negotiable level of a knowing. So I reached at the point in my first marriage where there was, and I prayed for this clarity, like, am I prepared to continue committing to building my relationship with my first wife? This was something I prayed about extensively. And the answer came in from very deep inside of me, no, and you haven't been for a couple of years. So the second marriage, the same, as we were reckoning, like, wow, is this going to work? Shall we go on? I prayed, and I get answers to my prayers often, and sometimes they're quite emphatic, which is very helpful because as difficult as it is to look at someone in the eyes, in this case, both of them, really with my first love that you mentioned, Zena, too, I needed to look them all in the eyes and say, I love you and I will always love you, but I'm not to continue building my life together. And I know that, and I must honor that. I must honor my own knowing and move on. And as difficult as it is to part, particularly after 25 years with my first wife, I was connected with my heart and my knowing. I've never had a question about whether any of those three choices was, did I discern the right call?
Well, and so many people can believe or feel that success in a relationship is being together your whole lives. And, you and I talk about this a lot. The success is
Yeah.
being honest and vulnerable and dedicated and devoted to love and truth with self and the other for the rest of our lives. And in these cases, yeah, those relationships taught you a lot because we reference it sometimes. So maybe just a couple in the growing up to be the amazing partner that you are for me today.
Mm.
What are some of the areas where you feel like you've strengthened and grown as a partner?
Well, the second marriage that I entered into, which looking back was kind of quickly and enthusiastically, people talk about a rebound. After a 25-year marriage, I think I was involved in a measure of rebound. What I learned in that experience, which was humbling, uh, it was hard because I tried really hard to make that work. What I found is that I can love somebody a great deal, but if I'm not compatible with them, no matter how hard we or I might try, I cannot force something into place out of my own will, out of my own vision, out of my own loyalty. I just can't do it. If it's not a natural match that works in a mutual way, then I need to just surrender to that reality and move on. At the time, it felt like failure. At the time, it felt like, wow, I had my tail between my legs. But it's our getting together, you and I, and having the quality of experience we have, the depth of love, the alignment in the life that we want to share, and the compatibility that we have, which is off the charts. I now can look back on those two experiences and appreciate them. I appreciate what they taught me. I appreciate how hard I tried. And I recognize that they are not failures. They were something I devoted myself to until it was time to move on. And moving on doesn't mean something is a failure. It was designed to go as long as it went. And I've done marriage counseling for 40 years. I see couples that are together that insist on staying together no matter what, or because their vows set until life is the end. And I've met a lot of very, very unhappy couples in that situation because they're not willing to listen to their heart and honor it. It's fierce territory when it gets to that level, I think. And I've helped a lot of couples who realized that they are to go their separate ways despite their love. And I've helped them do that in an honorable, loving way where there's no making each other wrong. There's no one to blame. It's just honoring what's unfolding and doing it in a loving way. And it's a very rewarding to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and equally so, I've heard stories and witnessed you bringing a couple back into a place of amazing joy and compatibility and grace and choosing to stay together. So it's a beautiful option, but to give permission to explore, in a couple when they reach that point, really, really powerful.
Those are some of my most satisfying experiences as a therapist, is working with couples who, let's say one of them has an affair. It's like, well, what do they do? Trust is breached. What I find consistently is the only way through to the other side is if they open to a level of depth of love and commitment that's far beyond what they've ever experienced before. So they're opening in a way to a new marriage, a new trust, a new depth.
Let's go back to the end of your second marriage.
Yeah.
And so there was 4 years between that marriage or separation and when you and I first met. What were you doing in those 4 years to just find solace in self and prepare?
Hmm. Well, after the second marriage and all of my effort and not coming to fruition, those 4 years were not easy for me. I did continue to deepen in my devotion to myself, my care for myself, my care for my body, to continue to go deeper on my spiritual path. Because that's what I find is a spiritual path needs to just keep going deeper. But I also could not deny that my heart had a prayer for a partner that would be extraordinarily rich, like the one that we share. So the challenge was I knew that I couldn't tell myself it would happen. There was no guarantee it would happen. I knew I could pray it, look for it, and go to the end of my life and not have it. But I chose to say, if I don't open to this, if this doesn't happen for me, it won't because I haven't made myself available. So what I did is I really asked for spirit's assistance. I have a relationship with the invisible inside of me, a profound divine presence. And I entered into a dialogue with that presence and said, here's my prayer, my sense of what's available to me. And spirit would say, yes, this is available to you. And when you find it, your life will be transformed across the board. However, it took 4 years and I held that vision. And times I was very lonely. At times I realized I was telling myself I was miserable unless I had this prayer answered. That approach didn't work. But I remember at a certain point, about 3.5 years in, saying, Spirit, why is this taking so long? And I meant it. The Spirit said, you have no idea the orchestrations involved in putting together the prayer that you've asked and marrying it with the prayer of a partner that's coming. It won't be much longer. So I continued to reach out when I was on a dating site. If I was stirred And more, I waited until I was really stirred, not just because I was kind of stirred. And then I reached out to you, not knowing if you would even write back, because some women don't, no matter who I am. And I never know why, but you did.
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm laughing because yes, you have no idea what it takes to bring two together. And I'm sitting here going, in my perspective, I was like, I'm almost there, babe, because I I needed to finish some of my own growth and learning and forgiveness, and I had to grow up to be ready to meet you. And I had a sense that my man was to the north and he was waiting for me. But he wasn't waiting. He was living his life and he was fully prepared to say yes when we met, which of course then I got prompted to get on Spiritual Singles. And a month later, we got to connect.
Mhm.
Gavin, talk a little bit about, you said something briefly, but you said you took care of your physical body. I feel like that's so poignant. In those 4 years, that's when you did all the testing for your gut health, right?
Yes, but it was also years when I was lonely. There were times when, for the first time in my life, I started drinking a little more. It was a way to just numb, and I gained weight. I went higher in my weight than I ever had. And I remember telling myself, like, whoa, are you gonna about leave this planet? Are you getting ready to go? And when it got to a certain point, it was like I was alarmed, and the fierce part of me just rose up and said, no. And before I met you, I, in 6 months, had lost about 30 pounds. And I started to come back into my own body shape that I knew. Um, and during that time, yes, I did a lot of work with a functional medicine practitioner because I had a condition with my digestion that needed healing, and I did that. I invested a lot of money in working with her. It was the best money that I ever spent. And I know that the intention that helped me lose weight, go to the gym, start exercising in a way I hadn't for decades was a desire to feel the strength and vitality of spirit. Because I was not starting to experience that I was feeling heavy and not myself, a little dull. So I rallied in the year before I met you with a level of dedication to myself. Um, I also realized, honestly, Joy, that those two prior relationships and how everything ended with my family and then with my second wife was very traumatic. I mean, I was, in a way, I was smarting and in pain about how things ended up despite my best intentions. So I needed a little bit of time to kind of open up to the next level of my life. So I did long before you came, and I was prepared for you. I was prepared, particularly because Spirit had said, when this arrives, everything will transform across the board. And as you know, when I met you, I mean, I've been all in with everything I've had from the first time that we connected until this moment.
What's striking me is that you were in the direction of your becoming.
Right.
And yet you weren't there yet, because when I met you, you still had another, how much have you lost? 25, 30 pounds since we've been together.
That's right. And now that last 25 or 30 has got me in a place as an athlete and fit. I haven't been since my 20s.
But you
But
were turned in that direction. So when I met you, I loved you as you were. Like, I loved how I felt around you more than anything, right? But I also could see your potential in alignment with what you wanted to become. So
yeah,
it wasn't like, I want you to become some certain potential. It was, I saw some potential in you. And then in my asking you, what are you wanting to create? Who are you becoming?
yeah,
All of that just got so loved up that you just kept blossoming and blossoming and blossoming more. That's my experience. But you were already as lonely, or if you had drank sometimes, or whatever was happening, you had already moved in the direction. You were so committed to your spiritual growth and connection.
Yeah. See, I had the experience from the moment we got together, and it got stronger and stronger, is that you really loved me as I am. You could see my spiritual lineage. You could see my beauty as a man. You also have a gift that you share with me and others of seeing who I will be, that I'm actually in the process of becoming, which you're speaking to now. And it's so true. And all I can say is to be a man who gets loved as I am, who also gets championed for who I'm becoming, with your love and our love, I have risen, just like what Spirit said, on every level, financially, professionally, my own self-respect, my own seeing of my own beauty, my body, how beautiful it is and strong it is as an athlete. I mean, I'm just, our relationship is marked by a very powerful integrated evolution on every level, and that continues. And that includes all of our work working with people and supporting them and having this kind of an experience in relationship.
I feel like our love waters this garden, and there's all sorts of beautiful seeds already in the garden. The garden wants to bloom, and we nourish each other so much. You with me with you, in becoming and becoming and becoming. And it's so honorable how we escort each other into that. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
So how about, so that 4 years also involved some dating,
Yeah.
some, some courtship, short-term relationships. While you were going through that journey, how did you navigate that? And, how did you discern? How did you make all the choices that you needed to make to get to the path to me? I mean, really, I mean, how did you do that? And thank you for doing that, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, there is a part of me that is darned determined. And this is it's probably the most powerful prayer I've had in my life is to actually be in a relationship, this arena of connection. And so I was really, you remember that book when you were a child, The Little Engine That Could, that always
I
tried to
think
get up
I
the
can. I
hill?
think I can. I think I can.
Exactly.
I know I can. I know I can. Yeah.
So I would date someone and it would start to go down the direction of my second marriage where I had all this hope, but it wasn't lined up and I'd be disappointed. So I'd go, okay. But every time I dated and it did not work out, I found myself remembering that there was some teacher, Zig Ziglar, I think, he used to teach salespeople. And they were talking about how to become a master successful salesperson. And you need to go out and knock doors. You get to be told no. And he said, how you handle the no is everything. But if you start to say, each no is one step closer to yes. So I would just, when I was done with one, I would just say, okay, and I would hold, and then I would be waiting. And I'm remembering now, I would begin, probably 2 years in, I began having a dialogue with my partner who was coming. I would send her prayers. I would talk to her and we'd have talks back and forth and I'd let her know I'm coming and I'd like to know more about you. And
Thank you.
I'd set up
Thank
my
you.
bedroom. Yeah. I set up my bedroom where there was a place for you on your side of the bed where there could be a candle. And I would write a little note and I have it. And I had to work with the part of me that thought, oh, you're such a hopeless romantic. This is silly, Gavin. What are you doing? Almost like, is this just a romantic ideal? Is this just your imagination? But something was sincere about this. And you know how sincere I am. So,
It's so sweet because I did the same thing.
mhm,
I was really dedicated to some deeper healing right before we met, but once the energy opened of okay, because I knew I was a relationship woman, that I was going to thrive
right.
and compatible, loving, nurturing, safe, secure. relationship that regulates my nervous system like the one we have. So I'm a yes. And then same thing. I bought 2 lawn chairs. I put the chairs down by the creek, lit 2 candles, talked to you. I said, I'm coming, babe, give me time. Or I would pretend or imagine, which was really like wearing the energy of
Right.
being together. I'm like, let's go for a walk, honey. What do you want for dinner, honey? And it was me being in the place of, oh my God, I can feel this, I can feel I'm with my guy. And so
Yeah.
you're over there writing me love notes and
Mhm.
lighting candles. And here we are. Now we're actually doing it in the physical form. That's
Yeah.
a that's a manifestation. It's a wonderful tool for anyone, the imagining.
Well, and you and I have talked about this, but despite having a steadfast faith that this could happen and taking the action to prepare, honestly, what you and I have so far surpasses anything I imagined. And the biggest thing I've had to do in the last year and a half we're together, in all the ways that we're moving and all the ways we're loving and all the what we're sharing, is just keep opening to find more room to receive. I mean,
Yeah.
we're buying a house now, and I'm now learning about the part of you that loves having a home and loves land and loves tools and dirt and herb gardens and all of that. It's a part I haven't even met yet. So I just keep getting closer to you in all the different forms and the ways that you are. It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. And then the question comes, wow, is this just too good to be true? Is this she going to get tired of me? Is she going to just say, I don't know if I want to do this anymore? And it brings up all my fears, scared. What I've always done with you from the beginning, and you do with me, is we tell each other about all of that. We don't hold it in a secret place. We're transparent. We don't want to have any withholds. And our relationship has an altar of safety where we want to know what's real for the other person. Even to the point, if what was real for you is you wanted to move on, and I've told you that, I would, I would be wanting to support you in doing that.
When we met and we had our first exchanges, first we were sending messages on the site, Spiritual Singles, then we were voice memoing, then we got on Zoom, and then we were on a roll for about 3 weeks. Oh my goodness.
Mm,
But the practice of being vulnerable that you're speaking to, it started right from the beginning. We would ask each other really well, we just asked each other any question that came up, and we just shared very open-heartedly about our hurts, our fears, our insecurities, our desires, our past. And that was so healing for me as a woman who was pretty used to pleasing, not rocking the boat. I don't want to
right.
say this, he's not going to like it. Oh, what if I tell him this part of me? Or what if he finds out this? Or I don't want to lose him, so I'm not going to be me, all that contortion, subtle at times, but present. It was such a commitment for me. Before we met, I was like, I got very honest with myself, which of course is where it starts. I got very honest with myself so I could be very honest with you.
Yeah.
And early on, we were getting to know each other, right? The energy was there. It felt, and step after step after step of getting to know each other, it just kept feeling I can be myself here.
Mhm.
So easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had learned, because you asked about my previous 2 long relationships,
Yeah.
both of them, what started to happen near the end was there are a lot of things that were not said. They did not get expressed. They built up. And with that, misunderstandings and hurt. And so I just knew, and when it gets to a certain point, there's nothing you can do if your partner's going to hold a certain view and they're going to say, they're going to decide something about you. So when things don't get shared, and also being a marriage and family therapist and working with couples, I saw over and over couples did not dare to share honestly as they went along. And they'd have this large accrual which only built the distance between them. And sometimes that I could build a bridge back where those things could be caught up and received, and sometimes they could not. But with you and I, we were so clear from the beginning that we didn't know if our relationship would go long term. We both wanted it to, but we did not know. So we had a principle of we're willing to risk telling everything to be true to ourselves, even if we feel like we're going to risk the relationship. And we did that, and we still do that. There's less concern about risking the relationship, but in the beginning, it was it was scary to take those risks. It took courage. And sometimes, I mean, I would come to you with insecurities, or you'd share with me some disappointments you had about me and things you wish that were different about me. You talked about them. You were so brave. You are brave.
There, we are, we really are.
Yeah.
And I loved the presence and permission. We also had a way of speaking in the eye. Like I'm always taking full responsibility for what I'm experiencing. We also have given each other a lot of room to ask for what we want. And that's part of that truth telling. When you were gonna drive down and be with me for the first visit, like a day before, I remember leaving you a voice memo and saying, hey, just wanted you to know I'm not a fan of chemicals and fragrances and skincare products. And I don't know if you use anything with chemicals or fragrances, but my preference would be not. And that seems so little, but that was one of those examples of just a real bold move. And then on the drive down, you've got the 10 hours to drive. I remember I call you and we talk and I say, hey, by the way, when we see each other physically for the first time, can we not kiss right away? Can we not kiss until we choose to kiss? Like, can we just take each other in, smell each other, look in each other's eyes, hold each other? Because it's going
Mm,
to take me a while to acclimate to the physical. But for me to have that request, to be that clear, and to just, I didn't know how you were going to respond to that. And how did you respond to that?
I told you that I love that you're clear on what you'd like and that you let me know. How else would I know? So I know every time you took a risk to do what you didn't do in those other relationships and you would speak up, I would affirm you because I love when you do that. I love having a woman who asks for what she wants. I may not always be able to provide it, but it's very healthy. I love when you do that.
I know. Well, and that was me taking inventory of what I had learned in my relationships and
Right.
making a strong commitment to myself, what I would not do again. So I started with what I wouldn't do again, because from what I won't do, I could learn what I would do. So I won't acquiesce all the time. I won't hold back my feelings and thoughts. So what will I do? I will speak with love and compassion my feelings and thoughts. I will have the courage to express. And so I came in with that strong commitment. And I'm like, I do remember though, we were such compatible playmates. And we kept saying to each other, well, we don't know yet. We can't know for sure, but let's go for it. Let's be 100% all in until we're not, or we are.
Right.
Yeah.
But I remember saying to you, the only way we'll know if we're going to be together in the long term,
Yeah.
if we're together in the long term.
Yeah.
The temptation, and I did it with my second wife, is to rush ahead and just say, nope, we're going to be together in the long term no matter what, and willfully try to force that path until it became clear that that was really not in the cards. But I remember telling you, maybe on the drive down or a couple days before, that I felt very insecure about meeting you physically because I still had another 20 pounds I'd like to lose. And I was afraid you might not be attracted to me or you might reject me. And whenever you or I share these things with each other, the win, the liberation is in sharing it even before the other person responds, because we're not keeping it in. We're letting each other see each other, all of us.
And I was nervous to share with you ways that I had betrayed myself in past relationships. And I remember that we consciously chose to wait till we were in person to also just go even deeper and share.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just love that we used our discernment and we didn't get caught up in the fantasy of it all, but we did let the hormones and all the yumminess that came in our initial dating and courtship to really lift us up. And I know it buoyed me with the courage to stay true to myself and just express it to you all the way through.
Well, it's that addressing that whole issue of can I be in a surrendered, fully committed relationship without losing myself? I think we've both been very successful. Not only haven't we lost ourselves, our relationship, you and I, allows us to go deeper into our respective roots and bring that back out to the relationship. Because we both know that how we are true to ourselves is what's going to serve the relationship.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go away and spend time away from me, whether it's with women friends or on a trip, whatever you're called, I support you wholeheartedly because I know if you're being true to you, it's selfish. I get more of you when you come back.
Yeah, we've maintained a certain sovereignty. We both, I believe, know ourselves very well and have devoted our lives to that. And we continued as we met each other to take good care of what brought us individual nurturing and connection, quiet time, whatever those aspects are. So, because we're offering this video to people who are in the stage of it's not there yet, what would be some words or wisdoms for that stage of life, like wanting it and it's not here yet, that beloved relationship?
Based on my experience personally, and in the people I've supported who do carry that prayer, the most important variable is to acknowledge the power and the depth of the prayer. Whether it's here or not is secondary. And I believe that we're not given deep prayers just so that we can be set up and frustrated. So the temptation is to abandon the prayer if it's not happening. To me, that's not the nature of a prayer. If I'd have carried the prayer to be with a partner all the way to the end without it being fulfilled, I believe I would have been more whole by owning the prayer and continuing to pray and act on it. I think it's very powerful when people do that. It takes a strength of heart to do that. But I was very determined. I mean, people who knew me, they just said, how do you keep going out there? And I said, I have a prayer and I have a partner with spirit that's encouraging me, and I'm letting that in. Little did I know, again, how extraordinary what was coming would be what we have. I did not know the strength of the arrival and the culmination. It still stuns me and bowls me over.
I love you, honey, so much. I gotta go downstairs and give you a hug.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm really
All
glad
right.
we did this and we're doing this. And ah, I'd love to just take a deep breath with you and, invite anyone else who's listening to take a deep breath and take in or write down or integrate anything that touched you from this conversation or inspires you or directs you or serves as a catalyst for some kind of shift and change in your consciousness.
Can I say one final word?
Yes.
Ever since we've met, I have adored you and loved you profoundly, and it only grows. It's vulnerable to love that deeply, but I just do. And I don't know how long we'll go and what we'll do, but all I know is I just love to love you, and I'm dedicated to do that. and love myself, but it's like just continue to find new ways to love you. And I do. And it feels like a gift from heaven. I call you my visitor from God. And that's how it is for me.
And I'm going to add that your continual affirmation of me and adoration of me and assurance that you offer me, the security, like I'm so here. I want to be with you. I mean, I want to be with you. You tell, or, we're married now, we're buying a house. We are together.
Yeah.
But that happened, that whole dating to courtship to commitment to engagement to now marriage, all the way along, you've been 100% devoted and here
Yeah.
as I for you. And how secure, that just lets me relax so much. It just has been so nurturing, enlivening. Thank you. Healing.
Thanks for receiving.
Okay.
Okay.
And thank
Okay, Booby.
you, everyone, for listening and living and being. Okay. We love you.
Thanks, sweetheart. Bye.
All right. So there you have it. And there's so much more to share. All right. Well, thank you for being with me on this journey and being in your own beautiful, sweet space to open the heart and continue the prayer. Until next time, much love.